we're firing on all cylinders tonight, boy and girl. So now I'm very pleased to welcome the Commissioner of the Chicago Water Management Department. He's going to come up here and talk about, we'll figure it out. So please welcome Barrett Murphy.
I drink my own water only, but as long as you're supplying something in a sealed can, I'm taking it.
Right. And this is probably made at least in the Midwest, so it has to be the same quality. Yeah, well, your own water, you say your own water, but really that's all the water, is it not?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. It's, we draw our water right here from Lake Michigan, and we supply the entire city of Chicago and 125 suburbs and 42% of the state of Illinois.
42% of the state of Illinois?
Pretty much almost half their state of Illinois gets their water directly from us.
But they're paying for it, right?
Yeah, not enough.
Your tax dollars at work. I would just like to start, Barrett, by saying thank you for being here. I am constantly amazed at the caliber of guests that we're able to get for this show. I just waltzed into his office like I owned the place, and he said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Have you seen The Tonight Show?" And he was like, "Get out of my office." But I met him outside when he was on his way to the car, and I mean, there was the one macing incident, but we're past that.
Well, once we got you out of the handcuffs,
right? Exactly. Because I talk with my hands so much, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
But Barrett, I mean, you started working for the city civically for aviation, Department of Aviation, in 1993.
Correct.
So aviation and water, pretty much the same thing.
It's pretty much the same thing. I mean, the one good thing, there is one similarity which we haven't even ever talked about. The two similarities is there's two departments in the city that are enterprise funds. And enterprise funds means they're not funded by your tax dollars for your property taxes. They actually make their own money. So aviation, the airlines pay for that, for all the work on aviation, and on the water side, it's your water and sewer bills. So we're a little alike in that we're the big enterprise funds.
And that's rev for the city. It's revenue, baby.
Well,
that's good.
Oh, yes. We'll put it this way. I don't take revenue from the city.
Yeah, you supply revenue to the city.
No, we don't do that either.
Okay.
Everybody stays in their own little sandboxes. There's no playing here.
No. So the same thing. They're the same thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
That was pretty much all I had. No, there's plenty more. Because you've been involved in stuff with the city since then, since '93. You were in charge of the city's response to Y2K. So great job, because nothing happened. What does that involve? Did you have to go to every computer in the city and say nothing's going to happen to it?
It was crazy because I can't tell you, like, the survivalists were coming out of the woodwork. So, like, if you went to Home Depot, for $100 you could have the 1 month supply to protect you from Armageddon. And then for like $2,000 you got like the 2 month supply. And then there was like the zombie apocalypse version, which was like $10,000, but you were safe from the zombie apocalypse that was coming right after Y2K.
Yeah, of course, because they come in pairs like that.
Exactly.
Everyone knows that.
It was crazy. So just like getting people to calm down and like, hey, it's not that bad. And like everybody should have 3 days worth of food and water in your house and a flashlight and all that.
And that's no matter what year it is, really, isn't it?
That's all the time.
And have that around. It's
Yeah.
handy. You don't know what's going to happen.
You gotta have your go bag for when the zombie apocalypse happens.
I got one right here. You also spearheaded 311. 311, the city number that you can call if you have issues with the city. You call 311. That was like. I don't call when I have problems. I mean, I do call when I have problems, but they're personal problems. I just someone to talk to.
Well, you'd be amazed at the calls we get from the public. I've been there. I used to answer the phones occasionally, and it's amazing how many words it takes for people to get to what the problem is. They're like, well, listen, my grandmother's visiting from out of town, and the cat is sick and puking, and the baby is still in diapers, and this takes like 4 or 5 minutes. And what's the problem? Oh yeah. I made the car towed in front of my house. It's like, okay, could you just start with that?
I didn't realize you were recording my calls. I didn't realize. It's similar to my interview strategy as well. So, water, right? Right. We're getting there. Water, the Department of Water, somebody said to me, this is the only department in the city that actually produces a product.
Right. I mean, that's the thing so like most of the revenue that's spent by the city, like 99% of it goes towards personnel, which everybody sort of knows about. Yeah, we build a lot of stuff, but mostly that's paid for other stuff. The regular O&M is mostly personnel. Water, it's like 60-40, because we produce a product. And I know everybody thinks we just take Lake Michigan water and deliver it to your house, but in fact, there's a little bit more to it. So we have to
stir it. You gotta stir it.
we add stuff to it. We stir it. We clean it. We add chlorine. We kill off all the bacteria and all that stuff, and then we deliver it to your house. And oh, by the way, we take it away too. So people like that. They prefer the toilets to actually flush.
Yeah, to have that leave the house.
Yes, after they're done with it. Yeah.
Civilization, am I right?
I know.
It's amazing.
Not everybody has it. So it is a tricky thing, and it is a day-to-day challenge, because we got to do it every hour of every day, all the time, right? Because people they don't notice water ever. They take it for granted until it's not there.
We do take it for granted. That's why I mentioned to Barrett, I'd met a couple times at his office, and I just showed up and said, no, I'm supposed to be here, and they tried to carry me out again, but I said, no, I'm interviewing him, but it's really, they only come to you with problems, really. I mean, that's, when water goes wrong, then they're going to be like, hey, Barrett, what are you doing over there? When everything goes right, they don't come in every day and be like, hey, nice job with the water again. Man,
we don't get many calls every morning saying, hey, I just took a shower, it was awesome, thank you.
I can make those calls if you want.
Funny enough, so David St. Pierre is head of MWRD, which is the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District.
Indeed.
And they clean the water after our use. I love calling them and saying, incoming! He really enjoys those phone calls.
I want to do a bit on the show. Let's keep track of civil servants pranking each other. This is some gold. But I mean, it's more than the toilets. It's more than the faucets. It's more than the shower. A big thing that I overlooked. I mean, this is a public safety thing. Fire. Fire safety. Having making sure the hydrants and everything works. I mean, that falls under your purview as well.
It does. So we have 49,000 hydrants located throughout the city. You'll notice them. They're on the corner of the block and middle of the block. They're all within 300 feet of each other, and we have to maintain them all the time. And at any one time, there's less than 5 out of service.
I always know that I've parked in front of a hydrant when I have a ticket when I come back to my car.
There is that. It is 15 feet either side of the hydrant.
15. It is 15.
It is 15.
See? Yeah, I knew that. How many people does your department employ? You said it was 60-40. There's a lot of personnel.
Yeah, but we have about 2,000 employees. So basically, we have about 600 or 700 people who work in the treatment plants and the pumping stations. So we have 2 big treatment plants. The world's largest, the world's very largest treatment plant, and the world's second largest treatment plant. And we have 12 pumping stations, 9 of which are electric, 3 of which are still steam powered. So steam power is left over from the last century. But we're actually in the process of converting those. We've converted 1, and we're going to do 3 more. And so there's
water powering water.
Yeah, well, it turns out we actually have, there has been absolutely 0 improvement in that in our forever. So nuclear power, steam power, electric power, all of it, all they do is boil water, create steam, turn a turbine, and create electricity or whatever else. It's all the same. We have not, that's the one technology improvement this whole world has not made for 300 years. We make energy by boiling water. That's it.
So, I mean, we can credit you with public safety, fire safety, and nuclear power as well. Hey, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. mentioned that we take water for granted. I mean, I'm guilty of this too. And we call this a deja vu episode because we had Mike Gifford and Show You Suck last year around this time. And we had the commissioner of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, as you just mentioned, MWRD.
Yeah, Deborah Shore, right?
Yes, Deborah Shore, so friend of the show. And she mentioned as well something that you mentioned to me in my second interview with you, which is the average American uses 100 gallons of water a day.
Yeah.
Now, this includes showering, but it includes what it takes to make your beer, what it takes
Yeah.
to make your suit if you're wearing one.
Get to and from work, your work, and cooling, like cooling the computers, like that's a big one now. Like everybody takes it for granted, these big office things. And it's funny because, you know, occasionally we have a water main break, or we have to transfer service, and we have to shut down at a big office building. Like they can live without the domestic water, but their guys can't live without water to run all their big computer systems. And that's actually more critical now than everything else.
That's something that we have here, especially a lot of tech here with like cooling servers and whatnot. But you mentioned to me also that 60% of the world does not have this turn the faucet, there's the water routine.
So there's a ton of places across the globe where you have to physically go a mile, 2 miles to carry water back to your house. And water is really heavy. It's eight pounds a gallon. It's really inconvenient to carry because it's not a solid. So it's really hard to carry and use. And most places don't have safe drinking water to drink from. So even if it's more available, in all of China, you can't drink any of the water anywhere. You can't drink it anywhere in India. The two most populous countries in the world, you cannot drink the water anywhere.
I don't want to correct you, but you know, water is a liquid unless you freeze it.
Well, you know, it's the only element that expands both expands in both becoming a solid and a gas.
I know that. I know that. I know, Barrett. I did my research, okay?
So we're getting the periodic table next, right?
Well, I don't know if I have it on me. Maybe next time. But I mean, something that we have to get to here, because this has been in the news a lot, and that's very interesting to me. PB?
PB is lead.
Oh my God. Hosting thing. Okay, listen. I show up at Barrett's office and I'm like, I mean, this is what we gotta talk about. We gotta talk about it. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. An article had just come out on the Guardian that morning. My girlfriend can attest to this. I woke up and went, oh shit, because a Guardian article came out about how cities are fixing their water testing to make it look like there's less lead in it than there actually is. And so I slink into his office and I'm like, oh God, how am I gonna break this? It's supposed to be a fun show, right? We're learning, but it's fun. And he goes, oh, did you see that Guardian article? And I went, what? You are out in front of this hard. I mean, and what you made clear to me is that you talk about this all the time. It's your job to deal with this.
It's all I deal with all day long, all the time. My son, my wife, my kids, they know all more about water chemistry than they ever wanted to know. And frankly, you know, in some crazy mixed-up world, in some ways, I can thank the idiots at Flint for doing this, because people need to be more aware of their water, and they need to be more aware of the complications of delivering it to your house. So, can I give a little diatribe about how this all happened?
You said about, what is it? It's a trail indicator. It's a trailing indicator.
So, with Flint, if you all don't know, so Flint had a good water source. They were using Detroit water. The water they use has a corrosion inhibitor from Detroit. It lines the pipes to prevent metals from leaching into the water, because water by its nature wants to attract metals. They, in attempted saving money, switched to the Flint River water, stopped putting a corrosion inhibitor in it, and that water was slightly acidic.
Different pH balance. Now this is something to mention about Lake Michigan, something that like Lagunitas, you just told me, they really like making their beer here in Chicago because it's a very balanced water. It's not too acidic,
They
not
don't
too
have
base.
to do anything to it. It's
So Lake
very
Michigan,
good water.
you just say it comes out and you just use it. So they switched to a more acidic water.
So then they scoured off the nice coating on the pipes, and they saw right away they had a problem. Because, as I said, though there were indicators they had a problem because they had disinfected byproducts, they had a breakout of Legionnaires. Like 11 people died of Legionnaires there, and that doesn't even make the news. And they had other issues that were told them their water chemistry was all messed up. And that's the problem. They didn't do anything about it. So then along comes lead. They do lead testing, and there's high. And that's because lead is a trailing indicator. So just for you all in Chicago, we do put a corrosion inhibitor in the water. It coats all the pipes We've been on the forefront of this since the 70s. We've been adding corrosion inhibitors since the 90s. We've coated all those lead service pipes that go into your house. The water coming out of the plants doesn't have any lead in it. There's no lead in the pipes leading down the streets, but there can be lead going into your house and in your houses.
Now this is
that's why we want the corrosion inhibitor in there.
That's what I want to get. So you've been putting the corrosion inhibitor, which is basically a coating on the inside of the pipes. So because 200 years ago, there were lead pipes. You had to make pipes, service pipes, out of lead because it was easy for plumbers to manipulate that metal.
They used it until 1986.
Till 86. Then the federal government said, oh, lead, probably shouldn't use that. Since 86.
Yeah.
So in 92 or 93, we started using the corrosion inhibitor here. That's
Yeah.
coating the inside of the pipes.
Yeah.
But the issue is that you're replacing all the pipes that have lead. There are no lead pipes getting water to people's houses, but once it gets to the house, what happens?
Well, that's the challenge, is there's a lead service line from our main into your house, but inside your house you can have copper, brass soldering, and lead fixtures, and ultimately to the tap. The tap, like you can have those little divider things, that little divider can be made of lead. So that's why the only way to protect that water, the water from any metals leaching into it, copper, lead, and all that, is the corrosion inhibitor. And that's why we test it thoroughly. We test throughout the communities, whatever you hear, we test everywhere. And by the way, anybody can call my old number, 311, and get their water tested for free.
Do it.
Yeah!
Testing has been being done at CPS schools, and everything has come back negative. So we are running out of time rapidly because this is so much fun.
Yeah.
But basically, you know, the lead levels that you're basing things on, this is a national standard. It comes from the CDC, it comes from the EPA, and they say, oh, well, only children from 18 to 36 months are super affected by this lead that they're drinking.
Yep.
But that doesn't make me feel any better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just the babies, so you'll be fine. But I mean, the goal is to have no lead at all, right, Barrett?
Well, I mean, that's the challenge. Is yes, those are the most impacted. But like you and I can eat lead pellets for breakfast. It makes no difference. Our bodies flush all that out. Basically, children will flush it out because lead gets really complicated because diet plays a big impact. So if you have a good diet, you eat the fruits and vegetables and things your mom told you to eat, you're not going to be able to absorb lead because adults don't absorb lead. And if you feed your children right, they can't absorb any lead. But ideally, no, we don't want any lead in our environment. But for Hillary Clinton to say she will remove lead from the United States in 5 years, but I'm like, it's a naturally occurring metal.
Here's the thing. I mean, so much, everyone understands that it is bad for children. It shouldn't be in the water. There aren't any lead pipes anymore, but once those connectors from in private residential areas get up to the faucet, it's in between there and there. What can residents do? They can call 311 for free testing, but then from there, what do they just call their landlord and say, hey, there's freaking lead in the water?
Yeah, because there's really not going to be any lead in their water. I mean, what they can always freak out. But basically, the water's going to be fine. The best thing to do, if you're concerned at all, is most people take a shower in the morning, flush the toilets, run the water for a couple minutes in the morning, and that will bring all new water in. I mean, remember, all that testing is to get the worst case scenario. So we have to let that water sit in the lead service line for 6 hours before we set.
That's how the testing works.
So the testing is to get the very worst case scenario. And even with the worst case scenario, we see very few examples of elevated lead levels. So by and large, if you just flush the toilet in the morning, take a shower in the morning, you're not going to have any of that in your house. And it's only single family homes and 2 flats. If you live in a high rise or a bigger building, anything like that, there's no lead service lines. It's
only single family homes, so that is the thing. So you can test, it probably won't be in there. Oh my God, we're running out of time very rapidly. Yeah. But I mean, the thing is with the food desert thing that you're talking about, if you have a balanced diet, then your body is going to be less apt to leach lead into its system. But a lot of people don't have access to it. So this is a multi-layered problem. If we're just talking about water, you're replacing lines at 100 miles a year, which is the same rate as right after the Civil War, where everything was just prairie.
Right after the Great Fire.
Dig a hole and put pipes in there, so no problem. You're doing it under roads with people walking on top of them, which is very impressive.
Well, and that's the thing, one of the benefits of my job is I have disrupted in front of everybody's house in this entire audience, or either in front of your house, in front of your work, on your way to work, whatever. I have torn up so much of this city that I am loved everywhere.
we've had the debut from Hood Internet and Show You Suck. Are you willing to debut any projects coming up here in the area?
Oh yeah, baby. Well, besides the fact we were right out here on Barrett just now, in June, we're going to be tearing up Ridge. So I warn you all now, your traffic is. It's going to be ugly. We're going to go as fast as we can. But Ridge
it has to be
not
done.
easy yet.
This is the bottom line. I mean, if you want to take lead out of the system, if you want to have clean water, these pipes need to be replaced because they're 100 years old. And this is what you're basing these construction projects on. How old is the infrastructure?
Right.
Does it need to be replaced now?
And the cost of failure is higher than the cost of replacement. Because if you look at Montrose Avenue, many of you remember when that burst, and right by the CTA, I was out there for 2 weeks. That shut down businesses. It was catastrophic, and nobody was without water, but it was still catastrophic. You just never want that to happen. You want to fix this stuff proactively. Do what everybody's telling us to do. Replace our infrastructure now before it fails.
I want to get, so I mean, we have like 2 minutes left. So I want to get to climate change and the fact that water is increasingly everywhere. Wow. But you know, the idea of these projects, that is the criteria that you base off where we're building our next project, because people have questions about which neighborhood and all that stuff. It's not based on where up top, it's based on where down below. How old are
So the whole
pipes?
idea is the city was expanding like this, and so it built from the city going out. So this neighborhood has a lot of 100-year-old mains because the parts in downtown are actually older. This was as it was expanded, right after the fire. So we spread the work amongst the entire city, and the whole thing is, I can't replace every old main in the 44th Ward because then every street would be torn up. You have to mix it up a little so you don't inconvenience people overly, as much as I already do. So the whole idea is you spread that work out throughout the city and spread the work and on the sewer side, same thing. We look at drainage, we look at how the system ties together and make choices that spread it throughout the city. And we want to make the greatest impact, especially on basement flooding, that we can for every single project.
And there are neighborhoods that are off the beaten path, you know, farther out on the edges of the city that have newer infrastructure. So if you're in that neighborhood, and you know, like you've told me, 100 years ago, the basement was a place that you dug under your house because you knew it would flood.
Yep.
And so now finished basements have changed the whole idea of whether your basement floods or not, and if that's good or bad. But if someone lives in these outlying areas, do they call your old number? Do they call 311? Do they ask for engineers to come out? I mean, how does that work?
We use the data from people calling 311 about their basement flooding, and we put that into the model, as well as we look at all the size of the sewer, the trunk sewers, and all that to make the determinations. But yes, I mean, what's challenging is if you want to call to let us know that your basement flooded, if it's already receded, tell us that, because otherwise we have to come out and visit, and that's a waste of time. Because 99 times out of 100, that water is going to go down right away. Because basically what happens, water finds its own level. I mean, my job is really simple, right? A couple of simple principles. Water finds its own level, gravity is your friend, and shit runs downhill, right? Not that
What a job! You could be a writer here.
So that's the whole idea. When that rain comes off of your roofs and it comes in, and if your downspouts are connected to the main sewer, all that roof water, you know, you're talking 700 square feet of roof on top of your building, goes all into that. You're going to surcharge that sewer. Well, as that pipe in the ground like this becomes full, water is trying to find its own level. It keeps going up. It goes up your private drain and flushes you into your basement. If you can try and disconnect your downspouts, keep the water on the street and not in the sewer, yes, your streets will be flooded, just like this last storm. A lot of streets up here were flooded. That's a very good thing, because that means your basements aren't flooded. Because after a couple hours, it will drain down.
So there's a lot of infrastructure projects going on, and this obviously is very complicated, but you can call 311. I mean, you can talk to Barrett after the show if you want. I think he's open to it. After he finishes this, he'll be over. But really, so to wrap up, you know, in talking about you replace lines that are 100 years old, so we're talking about the past. Let's talk about the future.
Yeah.
Climate change, real or not? Real quick, do you think yes or no?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
absolutely real.
There you go, you heard it here first. Austin, Texas, last month got 320% of its average rainfall in that month.
And 2 years ago, they had experienced a 100-year drought.
Paris,
So,
Paris right now is flooded.
Paris is
Germany
flooded.
is flooded.
Germany, and so Paris, they're moving stuff out of the Louvre today, as we speak. And then like Australia had 7 years ago had the worst drought in history. They built 2 desalination plants, additional filtration plants, and now they have more water than they know what to do with, and they've had to turn off those pump stations.
So is that the future? And talking about 100-year-old pipes, what is the next 100 years for Chicago water
I mean,
infrastructure?
in my opinion, I mean, this my son and I talked about this way. People need to stop living in the fucking desert. There's no fucking I'm like, stop moving to where there is no water. I mean, I'm like, Las Vegas, it's a fucking desert. It's a desert. Like, don't bitch, you don't have water to me.
Yeah,
I'm like,
the
I
biggest-
have the water. Like, and so I think in the future, people are going to migrate to who has water. And that's why we have to build the infrastructure today to handle the demand of tomorrow. Because I think ultimately people are going to move to
It has strategic benefit. Look, this has been great to have you here. I mean, you are a man who is working really hard to keep track of, 3 million people's water. This is a very complicated issue. 5 million, okay. So,
I mean, I know I don't care about the 2 in the suburbs, but
yeah. Me neither. They don't come out and see the show. But if you want to get free lead testing, if you want to learn more about this, call 311. Look them up on the Chicago City websites. Barrett, anything in closing that you'd like to let people know about?
no, I mean, other than, I dedicated my life to city government. I really enjoy serving the public. Now, and granted, I sort of hate people. people lie, people cheat, and people try and rob me all the time. But I love serving the public, and I've dedicated my life to it, and it brings me joy. So I really enjoy what I do. I enjoy working hard for the citizens of Chicago. I am not native to Chicago, but this is my town. I love it, and I can't wait to keep working there.
Amen. Pot shots at me on my own show, all right?
That's all right.
Barrett, seriously, thank you for being here.
Thank
and
you.
Give it up one more time for Barrett Murphy. Stuff writes itself. And now, welcoming back up to the stage for their second song of the night, the Hood Internet and Show You Suck, to present 2000 Camaro.